Welcome to the Blue Room. This is Mikhail, the Idea Shifter. And like I say before every show, I bless the mic because I got something to say. I rock headphones because you know I'm listening twice as much as I talk. Welcome to the Blue Room Podcast. I'm about to do a series on men and intimacy because intimacy is something that I think men struggle with. Not all men, but actually, shoot, I think a lot of people struggle with intimacy. But I want to cover that not just from a psychological perspective, but spiritual perspectives. So we'll touch on this topic for 1 month from a lot of different angles. But what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to do an introduction to intimacy to tell you what I think intimacy is or what I know intimacy to be. I actually do some sex therapy. I actually do couples therapy. I do couples coaching and just basic relationship stuff. And I want to cover what relationships are and what relationship intimacy would look like in various different relationships. Now, today, I'm just going to go over what is intimacy because, men, we need to be able to connect with our world because the world needs men, but most of all, it needs what's inside of men. It doesn't only need our money, it doesn't only need our encouragement, but the world also needs what we have in us. So, typically, what is intimacy? The word intimacy comes from the word intimus in Latin, intimus, and it means inner or the inmost. So when we start talking about intimacy, man, we're talking about things that come from the inside. I thought it was an interesting definition, you guys, because when we think about intimacy, we think about touching. But the Latin word intimus means inner, which means that no matter if the intimacy involves touching or talking or whatever it is, or romance or crying or smiling or laughing, it's something that comes from the inside. So for me, when we think about intimacy, intimacy is how a man takes his inside and connects it with his outside world. I'm going to say it again. It's how you take the inside and connect it to the outside world. So it's us learning how to build a bridge from the inside of us as men to the outside target or the woman or the child or the best friend or the company or whatever it is. We have to learn that the intimacy involves the inside of us. It's not an external thing. Now, if we learn how to tap on the inside of us, we can manifest it and connect with people on the outside of us. And this is the reason why some men struggle with intimacy, or some people struggle with intimacy, because intimacy is not an external thing, although it manifests in the external world. It's actually your internal world, your internal environment, the pollution or the cleanness in you. And it also involves skill. So if you were to build a bridge downtown, you have to have the skill to build the bridge. So when intimacy, when it comes to men, we have to have the skill to build a bridge from the inside of us to the woman in our life, or the inside of us to the child in our life, or the inside of us to the friend in our life. So when I discuss intimacy, I am going to not only discuss your inner environment, but we're going to review how to build that bridge. Okay. So when we talk about intimacy, man, it's just not about being in love with somebody. It's not all about trust. It's not all about safety. It's not all about emotional awareness and vulnerability. Although all of those things are necessary, we're going to talk about some skill. Okay. So I have seven concepts about how to build skill. Because if you don't have a skill to build the bridge, it doesn't matter what the inside is. Again, if I have this love, if I have this passion, if I have this compassion, if I have this empathy, if I have all of this goodwill inside of me, if I don't know how to reach inside myself, pull it out and give it to somebody, it's useless. It's useless. An arrow is nothing without a target. Okay. So let me do this right quick because this is just an introduction to intimacy. I'm not gonna read any statistics, but I'm gonna give y'all some stuff to think about. Number one, the first skill, verbal skill. You have to be able to articulate your insides to the external world. Now, this involves tone, it involves the rate of speed you speak, and it involves inflection. Okay. Now, tone can be condescending, like like you make somebody feel bad because it's you're condescending when you speak to them. You speak down to them, but you're not aware of it. You have to remember how you sound to other people, okay? That's your tone, your inflection, the rhythm of your speech. I do poetry. I think I'm pretty dope at it. You have to be aware of your inflections and what you emphasize. So like I can say, I love you. I love you. I don't love you. It's all the same stuff, but the way I articulate it determines how the person receives it. Or I can say, can you get me some water? Can you get me a glass of water? I really would want some water right now. Can you assist? There's just different ways you can communicate to your world. So your inflection, your tone, your rate of speed, you have to learn how to talk to, you have to learn how to talk at, and you have to learn how to talk with. Those are different ways you can talk to people. When you talk to someone, you're usually giving them a command, or maybe you're no, no, maybe you when you talk to someone, you're participating in a conversation with them, right? So you're talking to them. But when you talk at them, you're usually giving a command. I said it wrong the first time. When you talk at them, they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen to what you have to say. When you talk with them, talking with somebody usually involves you attempting to solve a problem. So when I talk with my wife about something, we're trying to solve a problem. That's different. But when I talk to her, I'm just participating in a casual conversation with her. You know what I'm saying? We having a good time. We communicating. We're probably out on a date. I'm talking to her. What's up, baby? How was your day? Whatever, whatever. Like that. That's just how we talk. That's how you talk to somebody. When you talk with somebody, it's usually a point to the conversation. Like you're trying to resolve a problem. You're trying to resolve an issue, right? But when you talk at somebody, you're commanding them. You're angry. And you need to know the difference between those. I don't want to belabor the point, but remember, you can talk to, you can talk with, or you can talk at. Okay? Talking to, you're usually it's usually a conversation, you're on a date, having a good time, just building that bridge to someone. With someone, you're working with them in partnership. You're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to get an understanding. But when you talk at someone, you're mad. Okay? So you got to watch that. That's your verbal skill. Now, your nonverbal skill. You can't say I love you, but your body is all tensed up. I love you. No, because you look fearful. You look angry. You have to make eye contact, because if you don't make contact, you don't transmit that message like you want. If your posture isn't relaxed, if your arms are crossed like this, I love you. I love it. Man, you're not doing anything. You have to watch your nonverbals. If your nonverbals are not congruent with your verbals, you do not build a bridge. Remember, you have to get your inner world to connect with your external target or your external world. So, how you say it, that's your verbal. Your nonverbals is how you convey it. So, how you say it, right? Those are the verbals. The nonverbals is how you convey it. Meaning, if your words say one thing, your body has to say the same thing. So you have to say it and you have to convey it in your nonverbals. Okay. And there are a lot of different nonverbals. Again, you got eye contact, you have leaning forward when you talk to somebody, raising your eyebrows or looking your eyebrows getting intensely. And if you lean back from a conversation, it looks like you don't want to be involved. So you may want to lean forward. Okay, so your nonverbals, be relaxed, be tense, pay attention to your body. Okay, now the third one, emotional awareness. This is big, man, because if you're not emotionally aware, you're not going to be aware of your verbal and you're not going to be aware of your nonverbal. So you will lack skill in both of those areas if you don't have any emotional skill. Now, I'm gonna give you a quick crash course. Say lies. That's the basic emotions every human being can experience. Say lies. A say lies are in the Bible. Selah means to pause and meditate. So when I teach kids about this, I say when you're under conflict, your emotions go fast. Fear, anger, and sadness. Fast. So when you do your say lies, you want to slow down. You want to slow down and not let fear, anger, and sadness rule you, right? So that's fear and that's anger and that's sadness. And your Selah emotions is sadness is the S. E is excited. L is loving. A is anger. H is happy. The S is scared. Again, the S is sad. The E is excited. The L is loving. The A is angry. The H is happy. The S is scared. And all of us have these emotions. And if you're not emotionally aware and you're not able to know what you're consciously and subconsciously thinking at that time, your verbal and your nonverbals will not be in congruency. You won't say it and you won't convey it because the way you process it in your mind, you're not going to be able to process it right because you were not aware. So you have to know if you're sad, you have to know if you're angry, and you have to know if you're scared. Because even if you can hide it in your voice, you may not be able to hide it in your body. And if you hide it in your body, you may not be able to hide it in your voice. So you have to make some decisions. And what you have to first know how to do is label the emotion. How do you actually feel? How do you actually feel? If you're sad, then you need to speak in a voice tone and get a body posture that reflects sadness. Okay. A lot of times we default to anger as men. So you're really sad, but you default to anger. You know why? Because you don't know how to convey sadness and you don't know how to show it in your body. So now you're presenting as angry and she may miss the point or your child may miss the point because you're not in the emotion that you're supposed to be in. This is called, I coined it emotional masking, where you have on a mask of anger, but you're really sad, where you have on a mask of fear, but you're really angry, or you have on a mask of sadness, but you're really fearful. It just depends on the person. But men predominantly mask anger. They use anger to mask sadness and fear because we're not comfortable feeling that way. So you got to be able to label it right so you can express it the right way, right? Label it the right way, you can express it the right way because what you can't label properly will convey a message to the person you're talking to. Remember, your words say it, but your nonverbals convey it, right? But your emotions determine how you play it. Okay. So it's how you say it, how you convey it, and your emotions determine how you play it, meaning how you play it, or it's going to determine your decision making. It's going to play something to the person who's receiving your message in a certain way. So if you want them to know you're sad, you have to label the sadness, you have to express it in your voice, and your body has to be congruent in your nonverbals, okay? Because you can't build this bridge of intimacy if you can't appropriately get your inside to the outside or appropriately get your arrow to your target, okay? What's the fourth thing? The fourth thing is you have to have insight about your companion. If you don't have insight about your companion, then you're not going to be able to convey this message. So even if you're good at doing the other three, you have to have some insight about who you're talking to. Because if you don't know who you're talking to, you don't know what to say. Okay. If you don't know how they think, you don't know what to say. If you don't know how they feel, then you don't know what to say. Meaning you need information so that you can speak the things that are supposed to be stated in an appropriate manner. If you don't know where you're building your bridge to, then you can't build your bridge. You can't get your inside to that outside if you don't build the bridge appropriately. So, first, you need to know their triggers. You need to know what's going to set them off. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. You got to know what triggers them. So even if you were trying to talk up on some sexually with your wife, you better know what triggers her. You better know how to touch. You better know when to touch. You better know what to say, what not to say, the environment you need to be in. You need to know all of that because you can't build a bridge unless you know where you're building it to. Also, what do they like to hear? You know what I'm saying? Say what they want to hear. Not that you're not being honest, but say what they want to hear in a way that they can receive it. Know how they need to receive a message. My wife used to go, we used to have conversations because I talk loud. My wife, when we would talk, she would go, I'm like, man, what in the world? She would go, I got the point. She mean turn it down. You're talking too loud. So even though I had my verbals right, even though I had my nonverbals right, even though I was emotionally aware, I didn't have enough insight about her to know that in order to build my bridge, I need to bring it down. So it wasn't a height for her, it had to be brought down. Now my message could get through. When I learned that proper voice tone, my message got through. And some of y'all, you got to learn that voice tone. You got to learn that inflection. You got to learn how to grease those wheels because when we try to achieve intimacy, unfortunately, even though you have all this stuff on the inside, it's about getting into the outside, and you have to take in consideration the target. Yes, I'm calling it a target because you're trying to hit something. So that bridge, you got verbal, you got nonverbal, you got emotional awareness, and you got insight about that companion, their likes and dislikes, their wounds, their injuries, what brings them healing, what they like to hear, what they don't like to hear, how they like to hear it. We gotta know all that if we want to achieve intimacy. We have to know these things, man. Real talk. Intimacy is not only about desire, yo, it's about skill. You gotta have some skills. The fifth one, listening skills. Man, you gotta know how to listen. That's why I bless the mic because I got something to say. That's my verbals and my nonverbals. But I'm listening twice as much as I talk because I learned if I don't listen to her, I won't have insight about her or insight about my child. Even live time and conversation, you have to actively listen. Do not look in your cell phone when she's talking, put it down. Don't cook while she's talking, stop. Don't do your work, stop. Give them the attention they deserve and actually listen because you listening is them building a bridge to you. And if they can build that bridge to you, talk on it, you got your bridge to where you want to go already, but you let them build it. When you talk, when you express your nonverbal, when you're emotionally aware, when you have insight, when you're actively doing stuff, you're building a bridge. But if you let them listen, they're building it. And even if they don't know they're building it, you're using the information they're giving you to walk straight across the bridge they already built for you. Actively listen. Make sure your body also shows them that they're listening. If they're talking to you, does that look like somebody that's listening? No. You got to look at them. Lean forward. Look interested. Nod your head when you're active listening. Let them know do not do this because it looks like you're not listening. Be relaxed. Have empathy on your face. And if your wife says, when I told you to watch those, when I told you to take the kids to the park yesterday, blah, 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 you say, so what you're telling me is when you told me to take the kids to the park, that's reflective listening because you're repeating back to them what they said to make sure that you got the message that they were trying to convey. So you got to be able to listen. Without being able to listen, make sure you got the message right before you move to the next thought or you move to the next command. Make sure you let them build as much of that bridge as you can before you take out your hammer and you take out your power drill because they're giving you what you need to make sure that intimacy is in your relationship or in your conversation. Just make sure you're able to do that. That's listening skills. The sixth one, intentionality. Yo, you got to be intentional. set goals about intimacy. It can be about sex. It could be about words of affection. It could be about words of affirmation. Make sure you are very intentional about intimacy. You're always building a bridge in every interaction. You're always paying attention to nonverbals. You're always going to have a date. You're always going to have something to say. Practice finding something good to say about the person you with and let them know. Let them know how you feel. Let them know how you roll. Let them know how valuable you are. Take your inside, put it in your hand, and give it to the person. I know it's a risk, man, but it's a risk worth taking. Learn how to be intentionally intimate all the time. I'm always giving my wife a compliment. I'm always hitting her on the butt. Sorry, Trina. I'm always finding a way to make her shine. I often tell her how I truly feel about things. I'm always building that bridge. Because if you're always building a bridge and it becomes part of your life, this last one, touching and sex, it becomes easy. This is the easy part now because it's only one thing. Sex is only one thing. Touching. Learn how to be with a woman and touch without having sex. And also learn that words touch just like your hands. If you can get them verbals right, hey, yo, those words touching, bro. There's things that your words can say that your hands can't. And there's things that your hand can say that your words can't. Remember, life and death lie in the power of the tongue. If you speak right, you touch right. If you touch right, you speak right. If you speak to your wife the wrong way, your touch also conveys the wrong message. So understand, your touch only speaks what your mouth has said. Okay? Understand that touch reaches places words can't, and words reach places that touch can't. I'm telling y'all, learn how to get the inner part of you to the external part of you. Learn how to build a bridge from you to your wife, from you to your children, you to your friends. Yes, you can use touch with kids you hug. You touch their shoulders. You embrace them when you need to. You have certain degrees of touch, and y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, if you're apologizing to your child and you're hugging them, that's different than if they want to track meet and now you're picking them up in the air, throwing them in the air because you're hugging them. Same thing with your guys. You shake your hands. Hugs differ based on what type of message you're trying to convey. All I'm saying is, men, you got to be intentional about intimacy. You have to be intentional, but it's not only about intentionality, it's about skill. Learn how to get the innermost part of you. Develop the skill to build a bridge with your world so that you can connect with your world and create the life you want. This has been the intro to intimacy for the Blue Room podcast. Stay tuned because I blessed this mic because I got something to say. I rock headphones because I'm listening twice as much as I talk. You've been on the Blue Room podcast. Just because you found out some information about intimacy does not mean you weren't in the Blue Room. You got your verbal skill, you got your nonverbal, you got your emotional awareness, you got insight about your companion, listening skills, intentionality, and you also have touch. Men, build bridges and not walls. If you are interested in content like this, go to Move Your Life. Go to Move Your Life. Hit that subscribe button, y'all. Cause here for men, we are changing lives in the Blue Room. And I am out.